Good morning, hello again. This is another video about online learning, and in this video I want to concentrate on about how you choose and use materials online for delivering your classes. Okay, so I've got a few things I want to cover in this. Hopefully this won't be a long video. It won't, honestly, trust me, I'm a teacher. But I think where we need to think about our content and what we're going to deliver, it's very easy to rush into throwing things online that in the end are not particularly useful or relevant to our learners or to ourselves as teachers. It's important to make sure that we're not spending a huge amount of time developing our materials to put online and using what's already available. We're not here to reinvent the wheel, we're here to teach. So with that in mind, let's look at where we begin from. I mentioned in the previous video that we should first of all look at the scheme of work, the actual plan of working that you have for this term or semester or year, and what you actually need to achieve within that time. Look at what you're going to be teaching, look at the materials you already have available to you for your traditional classroom, and think about what you can do with those materials. Think about their relevance. First of all, think about what things can be done individually or in small groups or teams or pairs. So, for example, a lot of the reading, the background work, can be done individually. That can be done asynchronously. So think about that. What are the things that we can give to the students themselves without having ourselves directly involved there? We also need to think about what needs to be done synchronously. That is when we have the whole group together, and that's things like video conferencing and so forth. A lot of online learning can be done individually as long as we prepare the learners for learning in that way. Now, once we've gone through our scheme of work and listed what we need to do, how we can break it down, first thing to do with our content is curate, not create. This is really, really important. I just said earlier on, you're not here to reinvent the wheel. And there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pieces of free available content online that you can direct your students to. Your role here as a teacher is in effect to be a kind of librarian where you're choosing the right books and materials and putting them together. Now, you can do it in the simplest way possible, which is simply emailing a set of links out. For example, in my role as a language teacher, I might direct students to a certain lesson on BBC Learning English or a pronunciation exercise like that. BBC Learning English, BBC Bite Size have plenty of things available there already. Why do you want to create or replicate what's already there? So look carefully for what's around. If you've got a good scheme of work already, it will already have links to those materials. So do that first. Don't give yourself a great big cross to bear. It's not your job. Your job is to teach and direct and curate here. So once we get those materials there, that's our bedrock, that's our formation there. Now we want to create our own materials on top of that to give that personal touch. So what happens, or what tends to happen with teachers, is they go overboard on trying to create things and just basically wear themselves into the ground from doing so much work. After all, what's the point of spending 2 hours on a whiz-bang video that actually consists ultimately of only 2 minutes of class time? You know, it's ridiculous. Don't do that to yourselves. You've got other things to do, and more important things to do, really, than trying to come up with a whiz-bang video that already exists, for example. A few things to think about when you do create materials. One thing I think is really important is it's got to be accessible. Think about your own students and their circumstance. If it's a reading text, well, do they need to have a text that can be enlarged or so forth? If it's a video, some people might have sight impairment. So again, think about that accessibility issue. You'll know that about your own students better than I do, of course. Another thing to think about is it useful and is it relevant? This may seem a bizarre thing to bring up, but actually what can happen with people creating materials is they let their own personal interests and prejudices inform what they're creating. That isn't something that should come into play. You want to be as neutral as possible when you're creating something. That doesn't mean being boring or dull, but you have to be aware that you have your own interests, you have your own biases and prejudices, even if you deny they exist. We all have them, but they will come into play when you're creating. You need to be able to maintain an objective eye upon what you're doing with it. Everybody has that problems when they start creating materials, and I've seen it many times in more established writers where their materials content, I can say, oh, right, you're going to be talking about football at this stage because you always talk about football, for example. Another thing to think about with the materials you create is they should be as interactive as possible. In other words, you don't want just a video. You don't want just a text or a PDF. You want something that engages the learner, is not just passive learning. Passive learning has its place, but that is a more asynchronous task there. And it should be, for example, in the shape of a reading task. If you have one of those, then make sure you've got some concept questions in there, questions to activate the schemata, and then follow-up questions on there. So that's pretty much the basic principles of developing materials. As for what you do, well, the things that people always do are slideshows, videos, and asking questions, quizzes. So do we use those? We can. If you do a slideshow, remember, cardinal rule of slideshows is it should be brief. No more than perhaps absolute maximum 10 slides. And it shouldn't be completely filled with text. If it's filled with text, give a reading task with questions. Slideshows should be mainly picture organised, possibly with embedded videos, that's quite possible, but with plenty of questions, and then getting things to where you're presenting your ideas there in a succinct and clear way as possible. For videos, if you're filming a video, okay, if you're doing a video filming course, of course you're going to do that. But if you're filming yourself, like I'm doing right now, keep it brief. Really, really keep it brief, keep it simple, keep it clear. Have a clear idea of what the objective of the video is. Again, quite likely that if it's a particular given point that you're trying to teach, it's already out there and someone has done it better than you. So have a look. Just curate the content, don't try to create it. Now, as for interactive things you can do, I'm going to say the Google Docs environment is a teacher's saviour. It is excellent for creating materials in different ways. You can use Google Docs, so first of all, just to create interactive documents that students can work on together that you can observe as they're working on it. You just share a link. It's as simple as that. Ideally, you have other people using the Google environment for using this, but you can share documents very, very easily. You can create, edit, and update them incredibly simply and share links to those materials. And one thing is a complete saviour: Google Forms. Find it, learn it, use it, love it. You can use it to set up a quiz. And the beauty of this quiz is you don't need to mark it yourself. Once you've set it up, it's self-marking, it will give the results back to the students, and it sets up a spreadsheet where you can see how well students did. Fantastic. So use that. It's a very, very flexible document, and I would strongly recommend using it. Okay, that's it for now. I will come back with another video about using, well, videos. Well, conferencing. Okay, have a good day.